So please welcome Dr. Q to the show. Welcome, Dr. Q.
Hello, Ashley, and thank you very much for having me on your show today. It's an honor and a pleasure that I get to share the magic, uncover the magic of Nadi readings, Indian palmistry readings.
Yes. Oh,
And
Dr. Q, all the way from Budapest.
yes,
Budapest, as they would say
Budapest,
from
yes.
from from that
Locals, yeah, locals,
the
yeah.
locals.
Hmm.
But I learned from you. I learned about Indian palm leaf readings. It was on a podcast, and it
Oh,
was like, I am in. Like it's calling me. So I
hmm.
went right away, sent the podcast to friends. Then there was like four of us that went right in, did our thumbprint,
Oh,
and it took 6 months. I got the first email, and then everyone was like, shoot, they're still looking for mine. Like, do you think they'll find it? And I was like, you
yes,
just have to be patient. And so scheduled my reading, had it done at 3:45 in the morning, Pacific
wow,
time. I
yeah,
remember still getting up that morning at 3 to get my coffee to get here and be prepared,
yes,
and sat here for 2 hours and 2.5 hours maybe. But, I'd watched videos of people having theirs read, and felt like my leaf was found earlier than most.
yeah.
And so that was amazing. And it's life changing. And it's changed many of the people that I've sent this amazing work to. And to be able to meet you, the one that had this journey that, when I look back at your life and how you connect the dots and realize like this white guy, that's in India, like you're going to be doing these, in this institute that you don't even make money on. You're just doing it for your heart, from your heart, which is amazing.
Yes,
This whole thing
thank you.
is crazy. So to have you on this show to explain it, because when I explain it to people, it doesn't, they look, it's like a blank stare. Right? So they're like, what?
What? Yes, I know.
So let's start with, I want to go with your childhood. I think that's fascinating when you turned 16 and you had cancer and all the things, all
The
the dots that
whole,
led you to
the
where
whole
you,
9 yards, yeah.
yeah.
So we chatted a little bit before we started the recording. My mom's Austrian; she's blonde and blue-eyed, and so European. And my dad's Persian, and that is how I ended up growing up in Iran. I was born in 1971, and my mom was a 25-year-old kid, I should say 23-year-old kid at the time when she met my dad. So a naive, beautiful young girl from Europe moves to Iran, to a third world country, and I still do not know how she managed to do that. But she loved it. She really loved every minute of it. She keeps reiterating every time we talk about the good old times. So that's how I ended up growing up in Iran. And we're not Muslims at all. My mom's Catholic and my dad's Baha'i. And it's quite important to share that too, because had we not fled the country in 1979, and some of you might be mature enough to remember that there was a revolution in 1979, which toppled the government and it turned it into the crazy thing that it is now, a religious dictatorship. So people should know that people in Iran are suffering. They're the victims, really run by mullahs. And so we had to flee the country. Otherwise, they would have executed at least my dad, if not all of us. So it was a matter of life and death, really. And since my mom's Austrian, we ended up naturally in Austria, in Vienna, Austria, which is in the heart of Europe. And we stayed there. We had planned to move on, continue our journey to the US, because most of my father's folks live in the US and Canada, but that never happened. So we got stuck in Austria. And in some of you might also be mature enough to remember the world's biggest nuclear catastrophe until this date, and that would be Chernobyl. If you haven't heard of Chernobyl, please do watch a very gripping, sad Netflix series called Chernobyl. And that happened in 1986. That was in April when a nuclear reactor burst. And it's because of that, and Chernobyl is about 1,500 miles away from Austria, Vienna, I caught cancer. And I only know this because my cancer doctor, who ended up treating me, and we became very close friends because I was a kid when I was 16 years old when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I survived, and we're still friends. And that's almost 40 years ago, and I just met her a couple of weeks ago in Vienna for Persian food because she loves Persian food, but she's Austrian. So she told me then that, but it's between you and me, you got cancer because of Chernobyl. As a matter of fact, tens of thousands of people got cancer in Central Europe because of Chernobyl, but no government ever made this public because they just didn't want people to be scared. So I was diagnosed eventually in 1988 with cancer because it took a while for this to manifest. And it took me 3 years. I was in hospital for 3 years, for a long, long time, really. 6 months as an inpatient in those 3 years. 1,000 needles went up my veins, 1,000, I'm not exaggerating.
Oh, wow.
And chemotherapy, surgery, the whole 9 yards. But of course, at 16, I said, God, why me? I mean, we just survived the revolution. We lost everything because my father was really wealthy, from wealthy with a golden spoon in my mouth, servants, chauffeur, nannies, to zero, being a pauper and refugees. So I know both sides. I know how it feels to be wealthy, but I also know how it feels having absolutely no money. And my career today, I built it. No, there was no money behind it at all. So if I can do it, by the way, and that's the only reason I'm sharing this, is if I can do it, you can do it too. At 19, what my cancer doctor said, you're good to go. You're in remission now. I said, God, why me? I mean, literally, why me? How come I survived cancer while I saw people in my room die over those 3 years? They did not. What makes me different? And how come I survived? How come they do not? And we all had the same issues. We're battling cancer. And that is more or less the beginning of my own personal journey. When, even though very young still, I realized that there is something that I cannot see, touch, feel, understand. There is something. And that's how I started to gradually dig into the rabbit hole, thinking that at some point, at that time, being a kid, thinking by now I would have all figured it out. And now I know, man, oh man, the deeper you go, the less you know, because it never stops. It just gets deeper and deeper. And that's the beginning of my journey. And so over the past 30, 40 years now, my God, I am 53. So I have to say 40 years, not 30 years, almost 40 years. I've done a lot trying to pierce the veil, really a lot. Spent time with shamans in the Amazon, did shamanic, if I can say so, drugs, medicine, that's the best word, medicine. Visited John of God several times, did Vipassana, I did everything you can possibly think of. Spend time, money, energy trying to figure out what's there that I cannot see. And yet I do know it exists. I really do know that. I'm also happy to say that over the past maybe 5-6 years, only recently, it's not that long ago, I can, through meditation, get to that blissful state. Not for very long, but I can. And in that state, you realize that we're all one, that there is no me, you, there is no distinction between physical body, mind. Anyway, there's just oneness. And since our brains cannot cope with it, we just experience things as we experience in a timeline. And as in separation, you and me being separate. But when you're in that blissful state for a short period of time, then we know, or I know, that whatever reality is not real reality. We're just experiencing things. So I'm telling you all these things, first of all, to encourage or motivate, inspire people that even though you have health challenges, you can overcome them. And I should share with you now too, I'm in more pain at this very moment and stiffer than you might think, because I haven't recovered from my second huge health issue that I had 11 years ago, myocarditis, which means an inflamed heart muscle. I had a virus infection, really. That's how it all started. And I now live in Budapest, so because I met a woman in Hungary, so I moved here coming from DC. And I'm pretty fit, I should say, but I couldn't keep up with her. I couldn't even, walk behind her. I just didn't feel so well. And she said, no, it doesn't look good. You should go back to your cancer hospital. And Budapest and Vienna are only 3 hours apart. So she brought me to the train. So I went to my cancer hospital. They checked me out. And since they know me for so long, I'm kind of like a VIP, it's like a homecoming. I go there, all the time. So I know every physician by their first name, and and so they of course took care of me better and faster than what they would usually do for a patient that comes in for the first time. So they send me straight to the cardiologist and did many tests. And then the cardiologist comes to me and says, Dr. Moyed, you're lucky that you're alive. You stay here. I said, what? I have to fly to Frankfurt in 3 days, I have to work. He said, I remember he shouted into my ear saying, I don't think you understand that you're alive is a miracle. You stay here. I was like, I took the train and the metro, subway to get to the hospital. So I thought, this guy's crazy. But that day, when I stayed at the hospital, I collapsed. I clearly wasn't meant yet to check out and be reunited with the eternal source. I spent a month in hospital, 10 days in the ICU because my temperature went to 100 and I forgot that in Fahrenheit now, 43. I mean, 43 Celsius, that's 105, 107. You're in a delirious state. You do not know if it's morning, evening, Monday, none of that. And you sweat profusely. They had to change my bed sheets like 5 times a day. I couldn't eat, I couldn't breathe, none of that, tube down my throat, of course, the whole 9 yards. But eventually, and my mom told me afterwards that the physicians told her that either I make it or I won't. There is not much they can do. But somehow I came out of the whole thing and was able to then gradually work on my recovery because I was stiff as a board because the only thing they really did was to sedate me for a month. So I didn't move at all. And that is why I couldn't even move my arms at all. Like I could not move at all. Wow. And my brother is an orthopedic surgeon, and whoever has him as an orthopedic surgeon is very lucky because he's not a butcher. So when you go to him, he tries to fix you in a non-surgical way because he says, once I cut you open, I cannot uncut you anymore. So he started to introduce me to myofascial therapy. They crack open your fasciae, and it's the most painful therapy ever. It took me, and it was in 2014 when I had it. So 2014, it took me 6 years to be able to do this.
Wow.
A long time. And I do yoga every day. I go swimming, I go to the gym. It just took a long time to crack open my entire body because my entire fascia, starting here in the back, all the way down to my legs, were stiffened. And fascia, just so that is a net around your muscles and bones, and there is lubrication in between, so you can move. And that's just dried up, which means no movement possible, or under immense pain. But if I can do it, you can do it too. It's in the head, and I still smile, every day, and I try to be as positive as I possibly can. Because what good would it do if I complain to you all day, every day? Nobody likes to hear complainers. But I also know it's in the head. It is in the head. So I don't even take painkillers because I know if I did, I'd be addicted to painkillers by now, big time. Anyway, so I want you to understand I'm just a human being with many health issues that I've overcome, and I'm still here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to share this story with you. And when I was in the ICU, my girlfriend, for whom I moved to Hungary, Emma, my best friend, and she's in this institute as well. So we work together here on this and the foundation we have now as well. She told me, you know what? I heard about something where you can fix your karma because that's what I had told you before. I think it has to do with karma because I think this lifetime I'm a good guy, really. I don't pursue money. It's not my important thing in life. I try to help as many people as I possibly can. I'm not into things. I don't even own a car. That's not important to me at all. Even if I won $100 million tomorrow, I wouldn't change anything. I would maybe set up a major foundation and give it away in one way, shape, or form. So that's not me at all. Money is not my driver. So I thought to myself, this has to do with karma because having to flee a country where our lives were super comfortable, getting cancer, and then now having this myocarditis thing, must have to do with karma. And then my girlfriend, Meshi, she said, she heard about something crazy in India where you can clean your karma. I was in the ICU, I remember, I could hardly breathe and I was sweating. And I said, you can do that. You can get a reading and I'm going to help you with that. And I said, you know what, Meshi, if I survive, I go and get a reading done. Because I would do anything. And I've done a lot of things before and after to just understand things better and overcome pain and suffering and challenges. So lo and behold, I did survive. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. And I got a reading. And I only wanted to get a reading to understand myself better and to overcome karma and to get healing. That was my only motivation. not knowing that 10, 11 years later, I'd be sitting here talking to you today, Ashley, and that totally changed my life. Because in the reading itself, in the reading, mind you, an Indian dude I've never met before who does not know me from Boo, just giving me the reading, he said, and by the way, you will bring this to the West. And I thought, yeah, I'm not Indian, nothing to do with India. Mind you, I do like India. I love Indian food. I do yoga every day. I meditate. But apart from that, there is no connection to India for me. So I come home and I share this with friends and family, and I say, "Man, oh man, there's crazy things out there." That's called what's called Nadi Reading or Jyotish. But then I realized nobody really knows what that means. So then I created this new name called Indian palm leaf reading, hoping that people have a better understanding of what it is. I tried to give it a literal name, Indian, so people know it has to do with India, palm leaf, so people understand it has to do with leaves, palm tree leaves. And yet many times I get messages, can you read my palm? I'm like, dude, go to my website.
Right.
We don't do palm readings. And reading that there is some sort of message. So Indian palm leaf reading is a term that we created to make it easier for Western people to understand what it means. But in India, we call it Nadi reading, Nadi astrology, Jyotish, many names for that. And so I shared this with friends and family, and they all wanted to get a reading done too. So I said, awesome, let's go to India. And that's when I realized that to most Western people, India is a no-go zone, believe it or not. To most, I mean, 90+% of Western people would never go to India, period. It's too hot, too scary, too poor, I don't know, whatever it might be. The food's too spicy. You need to get inoculation before you go there. So no-go zone. And that is how we started to see if we can do it online. In the old days through Skype, and it worked very well, I should say. The same system, the same process, the same everything. But I also realized that if I just had the reader and the Indian interpreter with whoever was getting the reading just do it themselves, it was just friends and family, they wouldn't understand a single thing, because most people have a hard time understanding the Indian English called
Yes.
English. So I said in every single reading too, reinterpreting the Indian English to Western English, plus explaining the deeper meaning of what they were just saying. I intuitively understood the reading that I received, and I did have a guide that you had in one of our moderators, actually, because I train every one of them so they can help every person gets a reading from us. I just understood, I've done a lot of things before, and I knew not to take it literally. I knew to take it as a guideline. I understood intuitively quite a lot of it. And so I helped
But
other people.
did you do research? Like, so you understood how to explain it to them? Because when I'm sitting there and they're talking, and it is hard to follow because you really have to focus on
Yes,
on him,
accent,
the
yes,
interpreter,
yes,
yes, on the
yes,
accent. So
yes.
I'm very focused. But when you're sitting there at the beginning with these, your family members or friends,
Yeah.
and you're interpreting them, like, how do you know? Because you've done, like, you know all of it.
No, I mean, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I did not know much about it at all. But I have no issues understanding the Indian accent. So
Okay.
I understood what they were saying, phonetically speaking. But in general, I also understood from the get-go the message, not in its, as much as I understand now, of course, because I've been doing it for 10 years. But I understood the gist. I knew what the message was. I knew that people must not take this verbatim. That's a big mistake. No one's life is set in stone. I mean, if it were set in stone, then you and I actually would be just puppets.
Right.
I'm a great believer in free will, in choice. And we do this every single day. Do I drink tea, coffee, turn left, turn right, buy, not buy, get angry at something or not? So most of them are done unconsciously, subconsciously, but some of them are done consciously, and we do this every single day. Now, if somebody said, look, your life is set in stone and you're just here to just go through it, doesn't make sense to me, then why should I be here at all?
Right.
I do have free will, I do have choice, and I can make things better or worse through my actions, thoughts, no actions too. If I don't do anything, then something will happen too. Of course, people sometimes forget, if you don't do something, something will be done to you one way or
Right.
another. And that is how the whole thing started, because then, of course, friends and family told their friends and their family, and more people came. And then I ended up helping folks that I've never seen. I didn't even know their names. I was like, man, this is crazy. And that is how the whole thing evolved into what it is today. We set it into a legal structure in the US. It's an institute, and now it's a foundation too, because we really want to help as many people as possible. And whoever comes and entrusts us with their reading, every reading helps me to support an orphanage. Soon it will be 2 orphanages that we financially support every month. And the next step will be, and don't shoot me because I'm still working on it because it's quite a lot of work. We want to start cow donations so people can actively donate maybe $1,000. For $1,000, we can buy a cow, and that cow can feed a family for many years.
Oh, wow.
For many years, and we can then take pictures of it and a video. The family, then whoever donates the cow knows the names of the actual people that get the cow, and through the milk. I mean, the cow is not slaughtered. It's the milk and the milk products for many years that will help that particular family. And India is very, very poor. It's also not for the faint-hearted either. If you go to India, you need to be prepared to be exposed to real poverty. It's
Wow.
not an easy country to visit, really. Beautiful country, absolutely, with a lot of history and very spiritual. But at the same time, for a Western person who comes from a wealthy country, not an easy. Not all of it, but parts of it are not easy to process and digest. So that's the beginning of it all. But maybe we want to dive into it because I don't want to bore your audience either, even
No,
though
I
they want
just,
to uncover the magic of this all.
yes, and it's so magical because I want everyone to experience this. But the
Yes.
now understanding it more because I've been doing my research before today. So, and it's kind of like, shoot, I'm going to watch my video again, and anybody wants to watch it, it's on YouTube under on my channel. But, when I sent in my thumbprint, and I know you'll explain this whole thing,
Yeah.
and that's all they know.
Yes.
And it's like they say they receive it. And now that I understand that it's only old souls and or souls that are time travelers that are coming back to help that are actually being called to do this.
Yeah, correct. Very, very, yeah, awesome. I'm impressed.
Did I get an A?
You get an A+, yeah. So in our belief system, and again, there is no right or wrong. It's just this particular belief system called Nadi Readings, Nadi Astrology. And allow me to explain what Nadi means too, because that is the term that we usually use. Indian palm reading is a Western term, because Indians know it's Indian because it's in India and palm reading. So it's Nadi. What does Nadi mean? Nadi means many things. Nadi means a leaf where the message is written on leaf. Nadi means seeker. That is why we call everyone who signs up for reading a seeker, because you're seeking the information on the leaf. So it connects the leaf with the seeker. It also means pulse, life, representing life. But it also stands for the exact moment in time when message is delivered to the seeker, not a day before, not a day later, the exact moment in time. And so I already have to ask everyone to be patient because the search does take time. And whenever it happens, it happens. It all happens in divine timing. There is no good, no bad. Makes no difference if we find your leaf, your bundle, I should say, in a week or in 5 months. It is what it is. So if I may dive into this, and I will give you the whole thing, and then we can go back to last lifers and second to last lifers and
Yeah, I was just thinking that
remarked
people need
person. Yeah,
to, yeah,
they need
people
to
need to
understand
understand. Yeah.
a little more.
Yes.
Now, just in brief, about 2 to 5,000 years ago, there is no written records of any of this. So it comes from generation to generation. Maharishis. Maha means great, Rishi means sage. So great sages in India, of course, at the time it was not known as India, but what is now known as India, in its southernmost state called Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has 85 million people, just one state in India, twice the size of California, Ashley. So it gives you an idea that it's a subculture or a big, strong subculture within India, the southernmost part. And every Tamil is very proud to say that's the original India. The rest came later, was attached to it, and eventually turned into India the way we know it today. They speak Tamil. They don't speak Hindi. And Hindi is the common language for all of India. And there are many, many languages spoken in dialects in this big country, but usually the one language that connects them all is called Hindi. Tamils cannot speak Hindi. It's a political thing. They're not being taught this common language for all of India. That means if a Tamil goes outside of Tamil Nadu, or if another Indian comes into Tamil Nadu to visit, let's say California, then they're foreigners. They don't speak the same language. They don't. They cannot go and use a common language called Hindi. So they go to, they speak English or Hinglish as foreigners. So 2 to 5,000 years ago, these rishis said in meditation, invoked the powers of the gods and goddesses they knew at that time. And because at that time, all they knew was Hinduism, so they utilized the power of Hindu gods and goddesses, primarily Shiva, his wife Parvati, Vishnu, Krishna, Ganesha. So these are most commonly used, utilized gods to be able to tap into the Akashic records. So these rishis were said meditation, were meditating to these gods to help them to tap into the Akashic records, and then they downloaded information for souls. So it doesn't matter that you are not an Indian, because I'm a white guy, in case you haven't noticed yet, the audience out there. I'm telling you a secret now, I'm a white guy, so I've nothing to do with India, and yet there was a need for me too, actually a couple, because I already had a couple of readings. So it doesn't really matter where you live, where you're from. We have Japanese people, Chinese, Koreans, all over the world. To message for the soul to be delivered to you at the exact moment in time when you need it. You're a seeker. You can seek the information out of pure curiosity. No bigger drive than just curiosity. It could also be health, like in my case, I just didn't want to be in hospital anymore. People might want to know about their love life, whether they will have kids, better money, better job. Makes no difference. Whatever it is that you're seeking, the rishis sat down and wrote a message for you so that you can, and that's the most important, simplest, most powerful sentence I can share with you, boiling it down to help the seeker create a better life trajectory for themselves after the reading. That's it. I already said it all in one simple sentence. They wrote these leaves to help the seeker create a better life trajectory for themselves. Whatever better means to you. To me, very simple. I just didn't want to be in hospital anymore. Some other people, as I said, money issues, relationship issues, work issues, you name it. So, and we do have an office in Tamil Nadu. Of course we do. And so at one of the temples, I bought several of them, of course. So I showed this poster of the 18 main Maharishis. There were hundreds of Maharishis, by the way, who wrote leaves, hundreds. But these 18 we deem as the main, and the guy in the middle is Agastya, and he is the main guy out of the main 18. Agastya was an astronomer, astrologer, poet, scientist. He did a lot of things, philosopher, teacher, over 2,000 years ago, and he wrote the most leaves. So he is the one that you would usually get your first reading from. Not necessarily, but the majority of people, when they get their first reading, a reader will look for a message, a leaf written by Agastya. That's his name. Now, when they wrote these leaves, so they meditate, they receive the message, and then they start dictating telepathically, if you wish, to their disciples to write down the message that they receive for an individual, long not born yet. Of course, we're talking a long time ago. So these disciples, when they wrote things down, they were looking for pen and paper, and they realized, oh, it's 3,000 years ago. We don't have pen and paper. So how can we preserve the information that we receive? And in southern India, we have these gigantic palm trees, not the dingy ones with the small leaves. We're talking ginormous leaves. And then they just cut them down into pieces that are about 10, 15 inches long and about an inch or two wide. And then they used a very sharp tool to etch the information on. And then when the leaf dried up, the message came through. So it's perfectly biodegradable. They use a leaf, a sharp tool, so there is no paper, because at that time there was no paper, no ink, none of that. And then they thought, how can we preserve these leaves, because they're brittle? So in their eternal wisdom, they put similar souls together into a book or bundle, and then use the, if you call it the bark, I guess, the rind of a palm tree to cover it. So they created a book. And this is a book or a bundle. And this is then how similar souls that share one thing, that will be your thumbprint category type. We're going to get to that too. The Maharishis, again, 2,000 to 5,000 years ago, thought, how can we connect a leaf to a person? Because in the old days, most people couldn't read or write. They couldn't. Only the elite could read or write. So then they realized, what is the most unique thing about a person? That's your thumbprint. So they connected the information. The key to find your leaf is, even today, your thumbprint. Male, right; female, left. There are thousands of categories, thumbprint categories, because that in itself is a science. When you submit your thumbprint, the reader looks at your thumbprint. That's why you had to submit your thumbprint. Without it, it doesn't work at all. Now we have 108 categories for which there are leaves written, 108 different categories. So the reader looks at it, the loops, each line has a meaning. And then once he looks at it, he knows, okay, it's this thumbprint category type. A thumbprint category type can have 2 words, 3 words, 4 parts, 5 parts, and each part has a meaning, as the secret in all of this is in your thumbprint. And we explain your thumbprint category type in detail in your reading. It's very important. That's the only thing in a reading, the only thing you cannot change. You cannot improve on. It just is. It's your baseline. It's your genetic imprint. It is you. And I try to explain that to seekers all the time. It is like your red thread. You are thrown into this whatever existence, reality that we're in. And that is the one thing that keeps you going, for worse or better. Neither good nor bad, it just is. And if you're mature enough, and actually you are, and I mean it in a very loving way, mature enough when you had your reading, because when the reader explains your thumbprint category type, and I was mature enough too when I had my reading, I wasn't 16 or 18, because that's the earliest you can get a reading is when you're 16. When he explains your thumbprint category type, you should really say, aha, now I understand. Because it explains your journey in general terms, and yet pretty well.
Right.
Some thumbprint category types are super easy, smooth, and then when you look back in life, you're like, yeah, I really never had an issue. I'm like cruising through life, all's good. And some people have tough ones, and then when they look back, you say, now I understand what's constant ups and downs. Varivata, I don't want to go too deep into that, because that in itself will take quite some time for people to understand what a thumbprint category type is. So it's very important. It's a secret. The secret in all this is your thumbprint category type.
But when you say mature enough, like my age,
Meaning because you can look back.
I've had an experience of life. Like if my
Correct.
daughter was my
Yes.
18-year-old, she'd be like,
Correct.
oh, what do I can,
Correct.
what are you going to tell
Yes.
me? How many kids I'm going to have? And
No, I mean, in this particular case, I'm just talking about your thumbprint category type and the meaning of it.
okay.
And each part, usually a thumbprint has 2, 3, 4 parts. That's the most common. And each part represents, if it's a 4-part name, 20 years of your life. If it's a 3-part name, 30 years of your life. It's not science, it's not math, but it gives you an idea. It's either in 3s or divided into 4 your life. If it's just a 2-part name, then it's 50-50, the first 40 years and the second 40 years. And so when you are a little more mature and they read out your thumbprint category type and explain it to you, and you can look back 40, 50, or 60 years, then you understand, I understand why things have been a certain way, because it's already in my thumbprint. It's already there. But when you're 16, you cannot look back at all, or 20 or 25. With all due respect to all the young souls out there, it's beautiful that you get a reading when you're young. But when it comes to your thumbprint category type, you cannot look back and nod and say, I understand.
Got it.
But when it comes to the reading, of course, the younger you are, the better it is, because really they will tell you a lot of things, and then you can create a better life trajectory for yourself after your reading.
Yes.
So now we know it's the rishis that wrote it. They meditated to the gods in India, and then they wrote them on these dried leaves, and they are called, and this is called a bundle or book, and this is how they're stored in archives or libraries, for the most part in southern India. Now, not archives and libraries the way you are used to. There is no air conditioning, there is no water dispenser, there is no guard. It's in reality a dingy back room of a person's house that is an archive or library. 98% of all these archives are small, individual, private libraries. And these bundles have been passed on from great-grandfather to grandfather, father, son, and so forth. There are state and federal and municipal libraries, and I've been to most of them by now. But they don't have these cool personal palm leaves. They look the same way, but they have information on history, legislature, Ayurvedic principles. So
wow.
the system was used by India for many different things, not just for Nadi readings. Now we know the setting. How you can find your palm leaf is easy. It's a three-step system, very easy. The same way as it has been for 2,000 years. You submit your thumbprint. By submitting your thumbprint, the reader identifies your thumbprint category type. He will know your gender because it's left for women, right for men. And mind you, you cannot screw around with us because we do know if it's a left or right thumbprint. I'm just saying. So there is no need to test us because we can see right away if it's a left or right thumbprint.
Has that ever happened before?
Not, I don't think in a malicious way, but
right.
it's important for people to know. For women, it would be left, and for male, it would be right, and it would be the gender at the birth. Because over the past 10 years, we had some transgendered people too. And it does, whatever your gender is that you identify yourself with now, you need to go with the gender at birth. That is the important part, okay? And in which country you were born, because that makes it easy to look for bundles. That's the only thing the reader will know about you. That's it. We might know more about you because you're going to pay for this and sign up and all the rest of it, but you can rest assured that my reader has no clue. All they get is your thumbprint category type and the gender and the country of birth. That's it.
Why the country? What does that matter?
It's kind of simple and yet complex how it's stored, how these are stored, and to find the right bundles, if we know which region you're born, makes it easier to just grab the correct ones within these little archives.
Okay.
And that's it. That's all the reader knows. And if you think that we share your thumbprint with, I don't know, the dark net, then please do not get a reading, because that would completely is absolutely not what I'm into. I'm here to do good things and not to play with anyone's thumbprint. And we do it through a secure server, so your information is super safe. I do my utmost to keep it super safe, and everything is destroyed after the reading. We do not keep any records of anyone. So if you fail to download the message that we send you afterwards, that's on you, and we tell you this too. You need to get all the information down, and once it's down, it's done. We do not keep anything. So the reader, that's all they know. And then they go on a search, a physical search, step one, to find a bundle that has your individual leaf in it. A bundle only contains leaves for souls with the same thumbprint category type. There are 108 different category types, and some category types have more bundles and some category types are not so common. But rest assured, there are tens of thousands of bundles per category type. So it's not an easy thing to find a bundle. And out of this whole convolute of bundles that are out there, The reader goes into the first archive. If it's in our own archive, usually it's not. So he goes to the neighbor, and then he goes to the next one, and then hops on his bicycle and goes further away, or hops on his moped. It's a physical act, and goes to village, the next village, and the one after that. And if he has to, he hops on a bus, public bus, and goes to 2 hours away. And in modern times, of course, now we would have an agent. We would just call someone 5 hours away and say, hey, look, we need a bundle that represents this particular thumbprint category type. And then they would ship it over to our office. So that's how it works today. So that's the reason why I got to be patient. We could do it faster, I have to admit too, but we have so many signups. We are way over and above our capacity. So until I can grow this a little more, or we just don't take so many on board, but I don't want to do that either. So you got to be a little patient. The average search time for this is anywhere between 3 and 6 months. It can be shorter, it can be faster. I do not know. One never knows beforehand. It all happens in divine timing.
Right.
You need to be patient. Now it's a physical act. There is no computer, no registry. It's an actual physical act. He goes into the archive, looks, and each bundle has like a symbol, and they are different. They're not unified. But the reader looks at the cover of the bundles, and he knows right away, okay, this bundle represents this particular thumbprint category type. And then he pulls it out. And 90% of the time, imagine, out of those tens of thousands of different bundles for just one thumbprint category type, 90% of the time, he pulls the right one. Matching works first time.
Wow.
And I'll explain what that means.
Yeah, why?
So pulls it out, brings it to the office. Step 1 is over, search is over. And then comes the matching, second step, and the reading. Now, if you were in India, you will go to the office and you would sit across from the reader, as I did, and it would open the bundle. We do the same over Zoom. We have a Zoom call. The reader is their interpreter because the reader usually doesn't speak any English or very little English. So we have an Indian guy who translates into English. And then we also have a Western person that I trained myself to help everyone through the whole process from the very first minute to the very last minute. Your moderator is the person who takes care of you. So the reader opens the bundles, and then he looks at the very first leaf, and this is called matching. And matching means to find your actual leaf with your name on it, because each leaf here again has the same thumbprint category type as you. That means because you're soul sisters, soul brothers, you're not related to them at all. It could be that your life trajectory is fairly similar to theirs, and yet it's not you. It could be a gentleman from France, a lady from Australia, a soul that is already passed on, a soul that hasn't been born yet. We do not know. So he looks at it, and what's very important for people to understand, it's not guesswork. It's a very complex process to find your leaf. Number 1, these leaves are written in a dead language called Granta or ancient Tamil. Doesn't exist anymore. Today they speak modern Tamil. It's similar to ancient Greek and modern Greek. A modern Greek person cannot read, write, or understand ancient Greek. You go to university, get a university degree. Modern Greek is rooted in ancient Greek, yet it's a different language. Same thing with modern Tamil, ancient Tamil. So the reader, a real reader, by the way, has to study about 7 years to become a real good, solid reader, because they have to study a lot. One of it would be ancient Tamil. Ancient Tamil or modern Tamil, unlike all Western languages, English is one of them, of course, English, German, French, all of them, is not letter-based. All Western languages are letter-based. A, B, C, D. Persian too is also letter-based. But Tamil is not. It's a syllabic language, sound-based, kind of like Chinese Mandarin. If we had to convert Tamil into English, it would have 247 letters, a lot of letters. So there are sounds. So one sound could be interpreted as E, A, E, I, O, or U. Could be. The reader does not know.
Yes. So when he's doing the reading and he's like,
not the reading, the matching.
the matching.
Yeah.
And he's those sound. I didn't know that. That's the sound. That's the language. Because it sounds like, yeah, da, 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 da,
It's the
da,
language.
da, 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 da,
It's Tamil. It's Tamil, yeah.
Huh.
And they have to study the way they deliver the message to you in a specific way as well, because the sound they produce, it's a sing-song, it carries healing faculties. So the whole process is meant to be a healing modality. As you receive the message, dum ba-dum 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 ba-dum, the
Yeah.
vibrations. As you
Huh.
receive it, it should bring you healing just by receiving the message. So it's a dead language, syllabic language. It's written in code as the icing on the cake. That's the only way to compress so much information onto the small leaf. And it's written as a poem and not as prose. It would be awesome if a leaf would say, this leaf belongs to Ashley. Her mother's name is, her father's name is, and it would be super awesome, but it doesn't work like that way. As you have done it yourself, so you understand, it is a very, very complex process to get to decipher, decode what is written on your leaves. So I brought this to the audience here too, so they can uncover the magic of these leaves. It's a copy, I had this copied plastic, so I can show it and take it with me. The original stays, of course, in India. Both sides are written on, both sides. And so as the reader opens up this book, looks at it, the first leaf, and then reads out to you the message that strikes him as the most important on that leaf. For example, you're married. If you are married now, because it represents your reality, the moment you get the match, go through the matching, you will say yes. If you're not married at that moment, you will say no. Very easy. So the only answers to statements, these are statements, not questions, statements, you need to give is a yes, no, right, wrong, correct, or incorrect. You do not need to give any more information than that. Let's say you go through a divorce, but you're still married during the matching process. He says you're married. You would need to say yes, because you're still married. No need to say, yes, I'm married, but I'm going through divorce. That's irrelevant. Only a yes or no. And as long as you say yes to a statement, he stays on it. If you say no to a statement, then that's not your leaf. He moves on to the next. He needs to know in which way to interpret this complex reading. He might say your name contains an A, E, I, O, or U, because these 5 letters in English are one sound in Tamil. You will say yes, no need to say which one. He will say, is it an A or U? You will say yes or no. Super easy, right? G, J, K, L, M, or N is another sound. It's complex, so he needs to know which letter to convert into English to make sense of it to us. Eventually, you end up saying yes to every single statement, and boom, out of the blue, and that is the mind-blowing part. And I remember my own reading, like if it were yesterday, he was saying dum ba dum ba dum ba dum, your father's name is Siavash. I was like, what the hell? My father's name is Siavash, and I guarantee you this guy's never heard the name Siavash in his life before. Guaranteed not. Dum ba dum ba dum ba dum, your mother's name is Gisela. My father is it's an old Persian name, first name, Siavash. My mom's Gisela, is an old Germanic first name too. It's like, and it was almost perfectly pronounced. I said, how the hell do you know even pronounce these names? So I knew it was me.
Right.
So for everyone, your name is on it. So dum ba dum ba dum ba dum, Ashley.
Yep.
You need to be a little, how should I say, understanding too, because the pronunciation of names is different in Tamil than it is in English. Simon could be Shimon, for example, or something like that. But it's Simon. It's obvious, So your name is on it for everyone. Your first name, and it's only first names, by the way. No middle name, no last name, no nickname. So it would be Elizabeth and not Lizzie or something like that. It would be Jonathan or not John if you abbreviate it and go with John. So first name of the seeker, first name of seeker's mother and father, your date of birth, your time of birth, your weekday of birth. If you have a husband, wife, partner, many times that person's name is on it too.
Yes.
And here comes yours was, and here comes the kicker, because I've moderated God knows how many readings over the past 10 years. And some folks have become friends. And so one lady, she was married 6 times, times, and the reader told her 4 or 5 of her exes Unbelievable. 4 or 5 of
Wow.
them. And by one of them, she said, "Oh my God, I divorced the sucker and I hope never to hear back from him again. And here he is, you know." So even the ones that she rejected was on the leaf. It can be, it cannot be, you know, I'm just saying it's how many kids you have, their gender,
Mm-hmm.
and siblings, how many siblings you have and their gender. And so in short, you know, it's you, you
Right.
know. And that's it's just the way it is. And the reason why the Maharishis go through created the system is to, again, for our own ego, so we would accept that it's written for us.
Mm.
That's why. Otherwise, our intellectual, ego-driven me would never accept, "Oh, that's me." If the reader just gave you the message without
Right.
helping you embrace it as yours, and that
Yes.
is
So good.
that's why it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And this process is called matching. So the search is to find your bundle based on your thumbprint. Matching is your actual leaf within the book or bundle. And now that your leaf was revealed, and you, in your case, Ashley, in my case, we embrace it, saying, "Yeah, that's my leaf," then the reading starts. And the reading is based on 3 aspects, very important, 3 aspects. First of all, on your overall energies, not your mood, whether you had your coffee in the morning or not, makes a difference. Whether you had a fight with your husband or not, makes a difference. That will be your mood. We're talking about energies. In our system, energies change every 6 months. They change fundamentally. So you could be in an energetic period where there's no leaf for you at all. But since you had the matching, then that means you're in an energetic cycle that there is a leaf for you. So
So you mean
energy.
people get on there and they don't find their leaf?
Well, we wouldn't find a bundle for them, but sometimes, like you've gone through the process, we do have a match. So we find your actual leaf, and then the reader says, "Now there is a block. You need to go home and do remedies, pujas, to overcome the block. And in a month from now, or in whenever you're done, we will get to the reading." That's
Oh, wow.
possible. Yes. Mhm.
Huh.
So it's based on your energies, and energies change. That's important. Energies change. It's based on the impact of stars and planets. They have an impact on us. And the tool, the vehicle that we use to get their message is Vedic astrology. So reader is a fully fledged, that's part of their education, a fully fledged Vedic astrologist. To some people, that's their job, to be a Vedic astrologist. To a reader, that's just one pinky finger of what they need to know to be
Wow.
a reader. Um, and on your thumbprint category type, that is your baseline. It never changes. That's you. So one of them, one of the 3 is anchoring you. That's you, your thumbprint category type, and 2 are changing: energies and stars and planets, because
Okay.
the leaves themselves have symbols on them that refer to stars and planets. So then the reader knows how to interpret things that make sense to you. So then he looks at the leaf based on these 3. He then decodes it from the day you get the reading,
Mm-hmm.
and gives you a possible life trajectory until there is no more writing on the leaf. From the day you get the reading until there is no more writing on the leaf. A possible life trajectory. One more time, your life is not set in stone. It cannot be. But he decodes it as best as he can based on these 3 aspects that I just explained.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at it from the moment you get the reading until there is no more writing on the leaf. It could mean the end of your life, but not necessarily, because if you might remember what I already shared with you, the most important sentence in all of this is to help you create a better life trajectory. So whatever better means to you. Some people, I'm not one of them, I guarantee you, they want to live longer. I'm done. You know, I'm ready to just say bye-bye, but I'm still here. Some people want to live longer. So if better to you means longer life, well, then work on it. The end of your reading just means there is nothing written anymore beyond a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
People should not worry about this too much. Now a friend, I met him through our institute, reading Reverend Bill McDonald. He's a reverend in Sacramento, by the way, super soul, almost 80. He had a reading a long time ago, 20 years ago, before I met him, and the reading stopped at 70. Now he's 80, almost. And he's a public person, so he's happy for me to share this. So I'm not infringing on his personal stories here. Then he had a reading a few years ago, and in that reading, he went way past 80 in his second reading through us, and I was the moderator in it. And they told him about writing more, how many more books, about what, when, blew his mind. And his reading was a few years ago, and he's come up with those books, and he still continues lecturing and traveling the world and doing what he does. So take it just as a guideline. Very important. Your reading is meant as a guideline, as a compass, as a blueprint for your life. The trajectory that the reader gives you from the moment you get the reading until there is no more writing comes in increments of years, 2, 3 years. And it gives you the good, the bad, and the ugly. A reading is not meant for you to feel good, comfortable, cozy, or chosen. We're all chosen, really. The reading is a raw reading, not sugar-coated at all. To some people, and I've been in many readings, is a kick in your butt. You're off track. It might sound harsh, but again, the Maharishis wrote it to help you make your life better. If you are a drug addict, alcoholic, or I don't know, don't continue with your studies or whatever, you bum around, then of course the reading cannot be awesome and smooth and saying, yeah, you're doing a good job, because you're not. You're wasting your life. And they will tell you that. But if what you hear is smooth, then you know that you are on the right track. Just continue doing it, and then you should be fine. So all the reading can do is show you the water, but you got to drink it you have to drink it yourself.
Right.
So the trajectory is good, bad, ugly. If it's good, wonderful. That means a good period to move, find a partner, have a child, get a promotion, start a new business, whatever that might be. It's good. Whether you utilize the time frame or not is up to you, because you get free will and choice, right? But if it's bad or ugly, embrace it with all your heart. I'm telling you this right now 17 times. Embrace it with all your heart as a blessing in disguise, because that's a block. The reader just identified a block in your life. The block has been here forever, and you've been hitting the same wall over and over again, not knowing why. But now the reader tells you there is this particular block, whatever the block might be. It could be the impact of Rahu, Ketu, the shadow planets, Saturn. It could be ancestral, karma, whatever. But the good news is, and that is why I tell everyone, if there is a block identified, say, thank you, Lord, now I know. Because for each block identified in your reading, the Maharishis in their great wisdom already prescribed a remedy on your leaf for you.
Right.
The secret is your thumbprint. But the real powerful part, the most powerful part of the whole reading are the remedies at the end. The remedies.
Right. The pujas.
Yeah, pujas, correct. I mean, we call them remedies to make it easy for seekers to understand. But puja will be the term we use. And puja, literally translated, means a prayer ceremony. That's what it means, a prayer ceremony. In Western terminology,
can I ask you really quick?
yeah,
So
sure.
the blocks, are the blocks from lifetime after lifetime after like you're recognizing a block that you've had in your soul's blueprint, and in this lifetime you have a chance to clear it, or is it just
Yeah.
in this lifetime?
I mean, the good news is you do not need to carry any block with you until you die. That's nonsense. You can fix it. If you set your mind to it, if you put your heart into it, you can fix it. And that is the beauty of this particular belief system, that you can improve your life trajectory, create the one that you want with all your heart. So a block can come from a past life. If you carry strong karma from a past life, you do get a karmic reading, a past life reading, very detailed in your leaf.
I didn't have that.
Well, then you don't carry a strong past life karma. That's good news. Some people do. Then they are told when they lived, their gender, their social status, a lot of things, and what they did to have this strong negative karmic experience from the past. Karma can be positive too, but positive karma is not mentioned because nothing to be fixed. Small negative karma most of us carry small negative karma, does not need extra special pujas. Anyone, all of us, can fix small negative karma through good deeds that we do today in our lives.
And that's what you
Oh,
did, right? Because you had karma. You had a karma.
yes, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Any job, any profession that is of service to others automatically cleans karma. Nurses, physicians, firefighters, police officers, if you help others, automatically, just by doing it, you start shaving off bad karma, as long as you do it ethically. Because if you are in a service field and you betray, you steal, you're corrupt, you prescribe nonsense, then the karma is doubled, tripled. It's very bad if you are doing something good,
Right.
fake, and then you in reality you screw some people over. No good. That's very bad. But if you do with your heart, ethically, whatever it is that you do, then you shave off bad karma. You may make, and that's also important to share, you can make millions with it. Money is not an issue. I keep telling everyone, continue doing whatever you're doing, as long as you do it ethically. You can make money with it, a lot of it. Just be kind and give some back, just help others, and then it's all good in the end, And
Right.
not everyone has to be as crazy as me and doing this for free. That's really crazy. And I'm about to get a heart attack with all the work that I do, but that's a different story. You can do good things.
But
You can do good things.
your
Yeah.
karma, they told you in your first reading, I think, that you had to give, like, go pay it forward, like pay for people's coffee or.
Well, that's a puja, yeah. So that's slightly different, but that's a cool thing. What is a puja? So puja, literally translated, means prayer ceremony or ceremonial act. And most people, when you get your puja prescribed, it's a mantra, really. That's what it is. A chant, a mantra dedicated to a god or goddess. Good thing about Hinduism, and it's not a religious act. So you can have any religion that you have and continue believing whatever you do. This is just a symbolic act. So in Hinduism, that doesn't have a written book either, like a Bible or so, there isn't. They have very literal, specific gods, and each one of them represents something. Lakshmi for wealth, Shiva the destroyer. So whatever the issue might be, Ganesha, the obstacle remover, whatever issue is identified, block in your reading, you then do a mantra dedicated to a specific god or goddess to help you overcome that block. Usually through a mantra, and anyone can do it, guaranteed, anyone. So whoever says I cannot, then it's just an excuse. Anyone can do it. But sometimes you're prescribed a physical act, something you need to do physically, not just to do a chant or a mantra in front of a picture of a god or goddess.
That was all I was. I just did chants in front of these.
Yeah, pictures. Yeah, perfect.
Pictures.
That's all good. Because it's the mind. Because how I saw them right away when I had my reading, that's really just an energy shifting act. It's an energy shifting act. That's what a remedy is. If we can agree that the magic of life that we're trying to uncover here, if you are as close as possible to this sine curve, and it goes back to my undergrad, when I had engineering degree, that's the most perfect curve there is, a sine curve, most perfect. Okay. We want to get to that as close as we possibly can. If you are in that, that means your life is running smoothly, or parts of it are running smoothly. Relationship is good, kids is good, I don't know, money is good, health is good, whatever. But some part or all of it could be screwed up. And the further away you go from the sine curve, the more screwed up you are. It's energy, really.
Right.
So we then focus with these remedies to bring the energy, the flow back to a sine curve. And as you bring back your sine curve with this new energies that you're exuding, you attract different energies. And with that, you can then create the trajectory that you want. That's what a remedy is. So it can be a chant. It's just the physical act that you sit down on 5 Saturdays in a row, not missing a day and finishing before midnight. So you show up and you put your heart and mind behind it, saying, I'm here to overcome block X. That is very powerful. If you just do it saying, oh my God, this is all nonsense, I don't want to be here at all, then don't do it, because then it's a waste of
Right.
everyone's energy.
But
But
you have to
you,
make sure you don't miss it, because if you
correct,
do, you start
correct,
over.
correct,
So I
correct. Yeah.
have started over many times.
Many times, it's okay.
Yes. Right.
But so you need to know the act of doing it is very powerful. Your act, I'm sitting here, I'm focusing my energies on, the 10 minutes that it takes to do it, to help me overcome the block that I'm struggling with.
Right.
Beautiful. So you do that. It could also be a physical act. Physical act. Feed cow and baby cow with spinach and hay. To some city slickers, that's like unheard of. Oh my God, how am I gonna
Find a
get to a
cow.
cow and this and that and the others? I mean, we help you in India if you want to, but many people, it's easier than you might think. You gotta drive a little bit outside the city, talk to farmers, say, look, I'm not a crazy person. I need to do this. Is it okay? Most farmers will say, of course, why not? Here's little hay, and then you feed them. It's the act on the specific day that you prescribed. Now, in my particular case, the reader said, feed the needy for 2 Wednesdays in a row. And I said, what do you mean by the needy? What do you mean? He says, oh, you will figure it out. Oh, man, I was going nuts. I had just moved to Hungary. I don't speak any Hungarian. I'm a foreigner. No idea what to do. So I was tossing and turning until the night before the Wednesday showed up. Because if you miss one, you start from scratch. And I
Right.
was really, really nervous because I just, survived a long time in hospital. The night before it just came to me, I was, oh my God, there is a cafe that I still go to. And I observed a lady who doesn't have much money in my world. I thought she doesn't have much money because she was always looking for change in her purse. I told the waiter in my non-Hungarian, just sitting there, and said, look, I'm going to pay for the lady. Just don't tell her it was me. And I did. It cost nothing, $10 really. It's not the money at all. And when the woman wanted to pay, and the guy said, oh, it's already paid for. I could observe it, on the gestures and stuff. And she was looking and said, what? Just the energies on her face. She was like glowing. And I was
Oh, I
glowing too,
love
because I
that.
was like, oh my God,
Yes.
I just paid for $10. And it was a beautiful experience. And the second one, the week after, I just, in a different place, different cafe, there was a young couple fighting. I didn't understand the word because we were fighting in Hungarian, but I thought to myself, man, this is crazy. So I just stepped ahead and paid their 2 coffees. It stopped them in their tracks. I mean, it
Oh,
changed your energies right away.
yes.
So, because a stranger paying coffees, and I've been doing this ever since. And anyone out there, you can do it too, because I fly a lot and I meet a lot of people. Today too, I was buying some groceries at the supermarket, and behind me was a bag lady right behind me. And the only reason why I noticed her, because she was behind me and I didn't see it, was her stench. You could smell her before even seeing her.
Mm-hmm.
And as I saw the little things that she bought, I just told them that, the cashier, I'm going to pay for her too. That's it. Anyone can do it. It's just a small gesture, but I'm telling you, the woman, the bank lady, she just couldn't believe it. A foreigner is paying for her, because I still don't speak hardly any Hungarian, but she was blown away. And then what's the funnier one that I was given is on 5 Fridays, after the 2 Wednesdays, 5 Fridays, I need to feed at least 5 children, give at least 5 children sweets or fruits. And I thought to myself, man, I don't speak Hungarian, I don't know anyone. But then I thought to me, you know what, let's just find orphanage or school, kindergarten here, which I did, not a big deal. And I called them and I said, look, I'm not a crazy foreigner, and none of that is, all I'm doing is, it's a remedy. I buy a full sack of fruits and candy and give it to the whole class, not just 5. It needs to be done on a Friday. I'll bring it on a Friday. It needs to be done today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, today. That's the only deal. The only guarantee I need from you is on today. And of course, I mean, these people were super happy that some crazy guy brings them a whole sack 5 weeks in a row, and then they distribute themselves. Because before I started this, I was like, I cannot just walk to a kid on the street and say there is candy, because the guy didn't give me any
Right.
guidelines. Just give 5 kids fruit or candy, which in India might work, but here, middle-aged white guy walking around with candy is no
Right.
freaking way.
Yeah.
But you find a solution to the problem. You do, and I did, and if I can do, almost anyone else can do that too.
Right.
So it's the actual act of doing on the day prescribed, because that's how you show the universe that you're serious about change and overcoming the block. That's
Right.
your way of showing it. And that's why I was adamant to do it on the day, not the day before, not the day night, because I wanted to show the universe, look, I'm serious. I don't want to be in hospital anymore. And that's in itself is the most powerful act of overcoming a block identified in your reading.
Right.
And that's the reason why I say remedies, the most powerful part of your reading, the
Yeah.
most powerful by far.
Okay. Before we end, because we're
Yes.
going over, I
I
really
know.
want you to
Sorry.
explain. No, I'm here with you because there's more. The one thing I want to explain, because when I finished it, I was thinking, okay, time, it's everything is happening right now. So 3,000 years ago is now there. So,
Yes, it's
so
true.
I think if I could say in my understanding of time in the last few years of really kind of getting my head wrapped around that, having
Yes.
this experience kind of put more of I kind of could I could kind of see it better in doing this. But when you talk about we're all one in time, I want you to explain,
Explain
let's
it.
end on
Sure.
that. Um, I know that's
Sure.
not a short thing, but will
That's
you
short.
explain that?
But I try to. Um, Again, I've come to this conclusion because I've done a lot of crazy things. I really have, because I know there's things that I cannot touch, understand, and yet it happens. So time, the way we perceive time, is linear: past, present, future. That's how it's perceived. But I know, can I prove it? No, I cannot. But do I know deep down? Because I've been there. When you become one in meditation or through shamanic medicine, you can be in that state. You can. And I'm just a white guy. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm not a master at all. I'm a
Right.
student, but I'm trying hard to get to that point, because it's bliss, and then you understand everything. So the way that we perceive time is not reality, whatever reality is. Our minds, or the way this human form is set up, cannot cope with the non-linear. We
Right.
have to process things one after another and then look into the future. But in reality, if we just agree on this, whatever reality is, everything happens at the same time. It does. We
Right.
just cannot process it at all. So if there is no past, there is no present, there is no future, it all happens at the same time. Well, that means that the leaves were written 3,000 years ago at the same time today. And how do you bring this about into your own reality? Because many people ask me, how come not everyone has a leaf? Well, first of all, very few people, when it comes to our 8 billion, get to listen to this podcast. And only few of those, hopefully 10 million, are going to listen to this podcast. They're like, oh my God, this is awesome. I want to do it. The podcast you listened to, do not know which one it was, but it created the reality in you, because until you heard this, it didn't exist. Did it? No, it didn't.
Right.
Before I
No.
heard about it, to me, didn't exist at all. So what brings into existence or into reality is a thought.
Thought. Yes.
You think of it, before you think of it, it doesn't exist. It's not there. Whatever is real, we do not know. Anyway, so you think of it. Oh, palm leaf reading. Now the thought is there. And then you take the next step. Oh, I want to get a reading done. And how do I get a reading done? I have to submit my thumbprint. So the moment you submit your thumbprint, that is your physical act that brings your thought into your current reality. Boom, you put down your thumbprint. This moment 3,000 years ago, at the same time, the Maharishi sits down and starts writing a message for Ashley to be delivered to her when she needs it today, 3,000 years ago, but yet at the same time as you live now. Now, I'm going to take you a little deep into the rabbit hole without hopefully confusing you or stressing you out too much. If once you are in this, and I'm more talking about your tribe here, when you are in this oneness, like in total bliss meditation, when there is no thought. That is the ultimate goal of meditation, being beyond thought. As
Right.
soon as there is no more thought, there is no me and you, there is no more body. I'm telling you, there is no more body if there is no thought. Without shamanic medicinal help, I can get there, not for very long, few seconds. And when I'm in there and I realize, oh my God, no thought, then I have a thought, then it's over. So it's very hard, it's not
Right.
easy at all. But when you're there, everything becomes a one. Everything. There is no me, you, there is no physical body at all. There is nothing. There is just existence. And that, of course, would mean that you and I are one. If
Right.
there is no time, no past, present, future, and if there is no me and you, there's only me, I mean, us, whatever, doesn't really matter, oneness.
Right.
Then the Maharishi 3,000 years ago, becoming one, is Ashley, who writes for Ashley 3,000 years later to be delivered a message to help her create a better life trajectory in her, at that point, physical incarnation, to make the most of it. So in reality, we write it for ourselves, 3,000 years ago, at the same time as everything happens at the same time.
Right. And then when they tells you it was my last life, this is my last life. My other friends, it wasn't their last life. They
Only old souls. So the Maharishis wrote these leaves to help us, humanity, through dark times. There are 4 yugas. I try to be fast. 4 yugas. Yuga, Y-U-G-A, is not to be mixed up with yoga. Yuga is a time period that is thousands of years long. 4 of them: winter, spring, summer, and fall, to use metaphorically here. Now we're in Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga is winter. So we're in the dark times. But good news is we're at the tail end of the dark times. I've heard many different versions of it. God knows what's right. I do not know. Some say 30 years left, some say 100 years left, some say 200 years left. But it's the tail end, given that we're talking about thousands of years each time period. Whatever is left is not that long. So these Maharishis, 2,000 to 5,000 years ago, when they wrote these, they wanted to help the individual, the seeker, to create a better life trajectory. And by them creating a better life trajectory for themselves, a trickle effect, to help others to go through dark times. Now, what does it mean, dark times? We're not in winter. In winter, only 25% of souls are enlightened or have the capacity of being enlightened. 25, the minority. So 25% of all souls today carry the brunt of 75% of souls that are in the dark. Right? And as we shift gradually from winter into spring, 50% of souls have the capacity of being enlightened, and the 75 goes down to 50. And then we reach, high summer, where almost all the souls are 100% and have the capacity of being enlightened, and only a tiny fraction is in darkness. So that's why they wrote them. Now, that's one thing. 2, only the very old souls, last lifers, as we call them now. Welcome to the Last Lifers Club, by the way, Ashley. So as I call them now, or second to last lifers, very old souls have an actual leaf. And a third category are what we call re-mokshas. Moksha is for last lifers. That means at the end of your life, you do not come back involuntarily, mandatorily. Your mandatory rebirths are coming to an end this lifetime, so that after this lifetime, you can reach moksha. And moksha means liberation, not to be mixed up with enlightenment, because enlightenment a human can achieve even as a young soul here on earth. Moksha or liberation means you're connected to the eternal source forever. You don't need to come back anymore. Unless, of course, you are crazy enough out there while you're sipping your pina colada under a palm tree with your toes in sand and enjoying the beach life, thinking to yourself, oh, humanity needs me. I need to go back and help them. Well, that will be on you, Ashley. if I meet you up there and I have those thoughts, I give you permission now publicly, take a sledgehammer and smash my head. I don't want to come
Right.
back, I'm done.
Right.
But there are souls that voluntarily, that's important, come back again. And we call those souls remokshat or time travelers. They came back.
Will that come
And
up in the reading?
oh,
Will that?
absolutely. Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. And Reverend Bill McDonald, the gentleman that I mentioned before, he's a remokshat soul. And just because you come back voluntarily does not mean that your life is all dandy and you drive a Porsche and everything's wonderful. His life has been anything but
Huh.
wonderful. He is a beautiful soul, really. Anyone should talk to him. And he's very open and outgoing and helps a lot of people. But his life was anything but easy. He was in Vietnam, exposed to Agent Orange, 40 surgeries. He's the one
Oh,
guy
wow.
that I personally know who's been in hospital more than me. I know that. I met him. And yet he's such a beautiful, outgoing, warm soul trying to help others. That's why he's here. So just because you come back voluntarily does not mean you end up as a princess or prince in a golden carriage. No.
Huh.
And so those remokshad also have a leaf, obviously, but they are specifically mentioned as a remokshad person. They
Wow.
tell you, yeah, you're here voluntarily.
Okay, so when you had a second reading and you do
Yes.
recommend that and so when
Yes.
I listened
Even
to
a
mine,
third. Yeah, even a
even a
third.
third, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So like let's say, you ended up getting a divorce, like when I was married
Mhm.
when I had the first one and now it would be a different leaf, but it would be the same because you have the same thumbprint. It would be in one of the same
It's
no.
so the second that's also good for people. Your leaf is written to give you guideline, help to create a better life trajectory at the moment you get the reading. So my first reading was 10 years ago, and my first reading, the guy said, "Oh, you will bring this to the West. I keep it short, and your life ends 77 to 79, uh, heart attack." To me, I was stunned because I just had come out of the hospital, ICU with a heart issue. So to me, makes total sense to get a heart attack because my heart is not very strong, or impacted through the chemotherapy, radiation, and the myocarditis. I was like, wow, amazing. But he
Right.
said, just to be told this, by a total stranger who does not know that I was in hospital, had cancer, none of that. And yet he told me all these things. But he said, this is karmic. He said, this is karmic. You can fix it. Do all these, pujas, give him a hole. It took me almost a year to do it all. And you can fix it. So then I had a second reading, and here comes the start. I'm telling you, that's the mind-blowing part, because I'm also just a seeker like anyone else, and I want to improve my life. So my second reading, uh, the reader looks at the leaf, and he looks at me, looks because he couldn't believe it himself. He says, "You are doing this?" It was a question. He was confused.
Huh.
He said, "You are doing this?" I'm a white guy. I have nothing to do with India. I don't even speak
Right.
Tamil. And I said, well, I don't do it. But at the time, I already had the institute up and running.
Wow.
And he could see it on the leaf. He said, oh, you're
Oh my
doing this. He was
gosh.
confused beyond belief. He couldn't believe me. I said, well, I don't do it, but I have this institute and, I'm involved in this work. I was blown away. And then he right away, when he gave me the reading and he went to 82, 84, he said, I can see 82. So it's longer than my first reading. Um, that means the pujas that I did to help overcome the karma have hopefully worked. Ideally, of course, I would pass on in my sleep with a smile. That would be the ideal for, I guess, everyone here, and not in hospital, not with a tube down my throat. So that would be the ideal scenario for me to just, move on and never come back. I'm just telling you, I don't want to come back, but I want to move on peacefully. So if you get a second reading, then that second reading will reflect your current reality at the time of your reading. It will. Ultimately, it's you still, it's you. You have the same thumbprint category type, you do.
Right.
And there is no school, by the way. People need to know that too. You cannot go to a school and become a reader and everyone learns the same. No, there are 10,000 different types of schools. 10,000 is exaggerated, but there are dozens quite many different ones, and they're competing sometimes. So for me to be able to run this institute the way we run it, we need to find readers that are more or less of the same thought school. They need to be able to communicate. I don't want any competition in the office, with the
Okay.
different readers saying,
Right.
"Oh, this thumbprint has this category type," while then the other school says, "No, it's this category type." It happens all the time. But so if you're within the same school training, then you have the same ideas. So within our system that we represent in our institute, you would have the same thumbprint category type. You would, but it's not the same Maharishi. It would be different sage. So we would not go for whoever was your first Maharishi. Will go for a different Maharishi. It could be the same, but most likely your leave for your second reading will be written by a different Maharishi. Your third reading might be a different Maharishi again. It could be the same, but it's always different, and it always reflects your reality that you're in at the time of your reading. And it should show you, hopefully, an improvement of your trajectory, hopefully.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's
Because
all purpose.
when he says, your name, first when he says my name and my birthday and my mom's name, and you just like your jaws will drop. Like, are you kidding me? That's on that leaf. And then he goes into like you're a life coach, and you have, and he's saying you are going to start opening up these healing centers, and because I had just talked about that, like, oh, I have this desire to open. I'm like, what? How do you know that? Like it just kept, and he kept going, and it was just one of those. So understanding it more now after listening to you many times in the last few days is at that moment that was going through my mind. Why are you laughing at me?
No, I'm smiling with you. Because I understand. It's mind blowing. I'm telling you. I
Yeah.
remember my reading very well, and I didn't have a guide like you had. I didn't have one. I was just blown away, trying to ride along whatever this guy was telling me, trying to make sense of all that. Oh, it was a beautiful journey. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here. But I understand. I really do understand this beautiful experience
Yeah. Oh,
that you have when it's revealed. Boom, there it is.
right.
Your
That
name, father's
moment,
name.
you
You're like,
can't
it's a
explain it.
stunner. You cannot
Yeah.
explain. You're
You
like,
cannot
wow.
explain that moment. You're like,
You
what the heck? He's reading this leaf with my name on it, and my mom and my dad's name, and the day I
Yes,
was born.
yes.
I
In a
just,
dead language that doesn't exist anymore, in a syllabic language that doesn't have letters, crazy. I know. It is
oh,
super crazy and
yeah,
beautiful. Yes, I know.
beyond. Okay,
It's
Dr. Q, let's close it up. We could
sure
do this
thing.
all day. But I feel like at least we got, I mean, there's things
Something,
that
yes.
I wish I knew before I had done mine. And
Mhm.
I feel like it just kind of helps explain to people when more thoroughly of the whole process. So I appreciate your time.
Oh, you're welcome. We can
So,
do a follow-up, if you want, we can talk about some more in-depth
okay.
episode
Yeah.
2, or I'm happy to do
Okay.
that too, because it's a lot,
It
a
is a lot.
lot. It's
It
just,
is.
we just scratched the surface.
Right.
We did. Yeah, it's very
I
deep.
know. Oh
I
my
know.
gosh. Okay. So we can find your website, Indian
Indian
Palm.
palm leaf reading, indianpalmleafreading.com.
Okay.
Easy, indianpalmleafreading.com. We're on Facebook, Indian Palm Leaf Reading. We're on YouTube, so you can actually watch. About a dozen or so of seekers allowed us to put their reading on our YouTube channel. So you can go on our YouTube channel and actually watch the whole thing, matching, reading as it's
Yeah.
done. And so don't worry, whoever's out there, everything's private. Only if you give us absolute written consent that I would like to share this with the world, and then we put it on YouTube, or as Ashley did, you put yours on your YouTube channel. So we're on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, the whole 9 yards. And a reading costs $100. Maybe I should share that too, unless you've already shared it with the audience. For the search, when you submit your thumbprint, you pay $100, $100 US, and then we search. It'll be patient, 3 to 6 months.
They're getting on their bikes, and I
Yes,
pictured them like going
somebody
to these caves, and
somebody,
then
they actually do it. And then once we find your bundles, that's one more time, one of these, books or bundles. Usually we find 2 or 3, they bring them to the office, and only then $400 for the reading, matching and reading, 400. So you pay $100 for the search and then $400 for the matching and reading, 500 in total. And the whole thing, you need to set aside 3 to 4 hours. That's the average time it takes to do the matching and the reading in one session on Zoom. Everything's recorded. You get a recording, a beautifully edited recording of your reading. Chat, we use the chat a lot because we explain things in typing. You get a picture if you leave, you know, high resolution picture, high definition picture, so you can print it out and put it up if you want. The original has to stay in the leaf and goes on the bundle and goes back to the archive. That's important. And you get all the remedies in a PDF with pictures of the gods and goddesses. You can do your remedies exactly as prescribed and bring about the life trajectory that you want. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. This was amazing. Love,
Thank you,
love
Ashley.
it. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much, Dr. Q. Until next time.
Hopefully.